Welcome to Motorhome Talk. My name's Mike, and I like to talk about motorhomes. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got involved with motorhoming and when I got involved with motorhoming, so you have a little bit of a perspective about me and my love of motorhomes. It all started in the early 90s. My first motorhome was a Tioga Fleetwood. It was about 27 feet long. It was gasoline. It was on a Ford V10 engine. And at the time, my wife and I were working, so we only used it on the weekends like most people do. We enjoyed it. Our big adventure was we decided to go to Alaska. So I was reading books and we decided to drive the Alcan. We were living in Seattle at the time. So we got in the motorhome, packed up the children, and headed north. Got through Seattle and up into British Columbia. Well, British Columbia is beautiful. Long ride, but beautiful. The roads are beautiful. Camping was beautiful, and it was a really positive experience. It was looking good. Then we entered the Yukon. Well, the Yukon is really, really big. And it goes on and on and on. And I'll tell you a little bit about the Yukon when we went on it. Now, that was quite a few years ago, so things have changed, but I can guarantee you not too much, because the road work is quite unusual. The problem with the road work is as you get further up in the Yukon with the freezing weather, it makes all these ripples in the road, the contracting of the road itself, and then your motorhome goes boom, 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 all the way up to Alaska. And let me tell you, it takes quite a toll on the motorhome, and that was just going one way. We'll talk about the way back in a minute. Well, on the way up, the Yukon, as I said, is vast, and there's not much there. You're on the road, and a lot of it's kind of flat. And if you're an adventurer and you like to fish and you like to hunt, well, you can pull over anywhere you want and go fishing and hunting. So it's probably phenomenal for you. But with a fellow that's got a few weeks on holiday with the family that wants to get up and see Alaska, it's a long ride. Now, there are a few big towns on the way, but most of the drive is you pull into small towns at night. There's nothing there but a gas station and a bar and maybe some basic RV parking. And from there you leave, and it's the same thing over and over again until you get to Alaska. Well, once you get into Alaska, it's really pretty. We really loved Alaska, and we went around and saw Anchorage and up into Fairbanks, and the big place, of course, was Denali. Denali was absolutely gorgeous, and we really enjoyed it. We saw the Aurora Borealis, and it was just really fun. So we enjoyed our time in Alaska, but then we had to drive back. So that was a long drive back, because not only did we get beat up again in the motorhome, but when we got back, we had to go back to work. So if you're thinking of going to Alaska,
take a ferry.
Allow a lot of time, and the best route, and we met people in Seward, I think it was, they flew up, or they took the ferry up, and then they went on a cruise, and then they flew back. That's probably the best way, in my opinion, to see Alaska, because the drive up is really long, and it really beats up your motorhome. So that was our experience with my Fleetwood.
Don't forget, we went to the 4-H camps.
Oh, we did. We used it for 4-H camp, and the Fleetwood was really good for that. The kids were involved in 4-H, and they went to horse camp or something. So it was fun, and we were in shelter, and it worked out pretty well. That was our experience with we went around to a few camps in Washington. We were in Washington State, as I said at the time, and there's some nice campgrounds in Washington State. Washington State, geographically, is beautiful. So we enjoyed it for the weekends when we had it, but then we ended up selling it, and life went on, and we worked until we were kind of slowing down, and we looked in getting another motorhome because we wanted to spend some more time on the road. And my children, 2 daughters, had gotten married and had children, so we figured, well, it'd be nice to take the grandkids with us when we're driving around. Well, that was a thought, okay. So we ended up getting, our next motorhome was a Roadtrek. A Roadtrek, at the time, they were, they were out of Canada, and they were a company that marketed themselves as a quality Class B motorhome producer. And they were on a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter chassis with a V6 turbo diesel. And it was a really nice looking rig, so we bought the Roadtrek, and we did enjoy it. We put quite a few miles on it, and during the first 50,000 miles, it was a really nice motorhome. Had some quality issues The blinds, some of them fell down, and mice seemed to be attracted to it, so the corking outside was odd. The pipes were underneath it, so it wasn't winterized. And the quality was just not there. But we enjoyed it. It was 24 feet long, which was okay, but not much you'd want to take your grandchildren. It was enough for two people that aren't huge. So it worked out well until after 50,000 miles, the Mercedes started to have electrical problems. And when I say started to have electrical problems, I mean broke down on the side of the road electrical problems. So we broke down frequently. And we brought it into Mercedes, had to be towed in, of course. And by the time it got to Mercedes, and of course they couldn't see right away, they looked at it the next day, the engine aerolite was gone. It was fine. The car started right up and they had nothing to go by. So they said, well, they'll try this and they try that. So after I paid some money here and paid some money there, still kept doing it. So my wife and I said, you know, this is kind of a little tricky, and I don't think we can really depend on this motorhome to go anywhere. So we decided it was time to trade it in. So gotta look out when you buy a used motorhome. So we negotiated, and we ended up getting another Class B. Our second Class B was a Coachman, and it was called a Believe, and it had I think it was a 6-cylinder gas engine, and it was a nice little motorhome. I thought it was well made inside, and we only had it for about a year, but it worked well. Heating was good, and everything was nice about it. The pipes had moved in now, so it was more winterized than the Roadtrek. And we decided to...
it was quite small.
It was way small, and that was the problem. It was 22 feet. So we went from a 24 to a 22. That wasn't working out too well for us. So I decided, wow, I think I need something a little bigger. Why not check out a Super C? So I read about Super Cs, and boy, did they sound sweet. And besides, they looked really cool. So I found, at the time, Newmar had just come out with Superstar Super C. So I said, well, I got to check this out. So they were real hard to find, but I did find one in Colorado. And we drove to Colorado in our Believe, got in the Super C, and took it for a spin. Well, it's a little bit of a disappointment. I got to a 90-degree turn, and I couldn't make the 90-degree turn. Turns out the turning radius on the Super C, which is on a Freightliner chassis, was only like 30 degrees. And I couldn't make, I was running up on the curb, and I had to back. I mean, it was ridiculous. So I said, that's not a fun thing to do. And besides that, Roadtrek, Newmar made a big thing about the seats being air bouncy so you weren't driving like a truck. But they squeaked. I mean, it was driving me insane, and I was just going for a test drive. So I figured, boy, this Superstar is nice looking and it's cool and it's got a lot of stuff, but I can't drive this thing. 30-degree turning radius just doesn't work for me. I had someone that had turned in a Newmar New Air for a newer Newmar New Air because the newer one just had come out and it had a bigger engine, 450 horsepower compared to the 360 in the 3341 that I ended up getting. So I said, well, I'll take a look at it. So we got back and we went in and my wife checked it out. And my wife doesn't get too excited about motorhomes or cars or anything much, but she really liked the decor of the New Air. We looked at a couple of other, I think Country Coach or something, but she really liked this particular color scheme in the New Air. And it was only 33 feet and 10 inches, I think. So I said, well, let's take it for a ride. So we ended up taking it for a ride. And the salesman was really good because I had never driven a bus before. So we went around and I said, I got to see how I can handle it in action and traffic or neighborhoods or something. So we went into neighborhoods and it was really pretty slick. It had like I think a 60-degree turning radius, really nice. And my wife drove it, which is real. She said, I can drive this. So I said, this is good. So after some negotiation, my wife's a pretty good negotiator. We ended up trading in the Believe and leaving in the New Air, the Newmar New Air. And so far, we have loved it. Now, it has had a few little issues, but nothing crazy. We had a little trouble with the battery connecting when I'm driving. The batteries weren't charging, and then the camera went out, and some kind of stuff that, I don't know whether it's just the luck of the draw, because when you own a motorhome, I talk to a lot of people about motorhomes, because as I said, I really enjoy it, and a lot of them have issues here with the cameras and some other things. But we ended up enjoying it to that point. The things I did learn when I first got into motorhoming, particularly with a big brand name like Newmar, is I started going to the authorized dealers. Now, I bought in Colorado, but I no longer lived in Colorado. So I brought it to, I never lived in Colorado. I went to Washington State. The bottom line is, when I moved across the country, because we ended up moving to Florida for a while, I had to have it serviced. And then we moved to Mississippi, I think. And I had to have it serviced. So I had to find an authorized Newmar dealer. And the authorized Newmar dealers that you didn't buy it from weren't exactly thrilled to see it. Now, they did see it, and they did get me in. I wouldn't say in a timely fashion, but they got me in.
But their level of knowledge and expertise.
Right, but the issue, as my wife pointed out, is that when you get into a dealer, they deal with a lot of different motorhomes, and that's fine, and they do what they do, and they do the best they can do, but they don't just deal with Newmar. So, first of all, when we got there, it took them a long time to diagnose issues. The second thing is, and this was a real big problem with me, is they don't have any parts. Today, nobody has any parts. So you got to go there. Now, the dealer nearest me, I was staying with my daughter in Mississippi at the time, was 4 hours away. It's not a hop, skip, and a jump in a motorhome. So I had to drive up there, hang out, let them diagnose us, tell me order parts, drive back down, drive back up, and have them put them in if they were the right part. Now, that didn't always come out. Sometimes I had to drive back while they ordered another part. And so this is ridiculous. So after this, I said, there's got to be a better way. So talking to people, reading on the internet, different videos, and I said, I'm going to try going to the service center at Newmar. So I said, we're going to make an appointment. So I call up, figuring I'd get in a couple of months. Well, I call up and they say, yeah, we can get you in about 6 months. So I go, whoa. I said, this is a long wait. But I said, put me down, we'll be up. So we put down and we packed up, and just my wife and I drove up to Napanee, Indiana. And the facility was, wow, it was beautiful. Huge building. If anybody's ever been there and taken the tour, it's wow. It's got 50-something bays, and they've got an RV park where they let you stay up at night while you're being serviced. And it's just fantastic. It's got 50 amp power, water, except in the winter. Don't go up in the dead of winter because the water's off, and that's a whole other story. But I should have known that. But it's 50 amp power. And we went up there. They had all the information because I was corresponding with them and what I wanted done, what I wanted checked, and all this. So it worked out really, really well. So we got there. Everything was dandy. Now they come at like 6 o'clock in the morning on the dot. And they sit down with you when you first get up there, and they talk to you about all your problems. You show them stuff, show them what's wrong, and they were really, really just super nice people. So we were there for a week, and we had a great tech named Brendan, and he was really good. And he solved all the problems, figured out the battery problem, and it was a solenoid or something that wasn't switching over, which I did find happens to a lot of people because we have since been back. And even some of the newer Newmars of us had the similar problem. It was a solenoid. And even Brendan said they were using a solenoid that probably is a better one, and he ended up switching it out. We did have some other issues. There was a leak. That was the biggest problem. We weren't full-time. We were part-time. So when we were parked, we didn't have our slides out. We were visiting our daughter. We had decided to go full-time, and that's kind of what led me to starting Motorhome Talk, because I love talking about motorhomes, and I have the time now that we sold our house, and now we're going full-time. So this is a completely new adventure for us, and it's a learning curve as we go. So we ended up having this slide out, and then we were in Mississippi visiting our daughter, and it rained. And I'm talking a southern rain. If anybody lives in the southeast, when it rains, it rains. In Seattle, it'll rain for weeks, but it's not a rain like the southern rain. So we had a major leak. So we were planning a trip to Disney World in the near future with our granddaughter's first trip with the granddaughter since we completely retired and gone full-time. That's coming up. We'll see how that goes. It'll be an adventure. But we had to take the motorhome up to get the leak fixed. So we drove it up there, and sure enough, he found the leak. First, I had it checked here to make sure it wasn't just one of the rubber guards that didn't fold right, and the fella here was not a Newmar. He said, no, it's not that. You better take it to Newmar because I don't want to mess with this thing. So I said, fine. We got an appointment and went up there around Christmas time, and it's mighty cold in Indiana in the Christmas time. But they solved the problem. They saw the leak real good, explained it to me, took pictures, told me what he was going to do, We were there for about 4 or 5 days. And while you're there, the neat thing is you get to talk to all these other motorhome people that own similar motorhomes to you. And it's fascinating. These people are not only friendly, but they're fantastic, knowledgeable. It's just amazing. So I really enjoyed that because what do I like to do? I like to talk about motorhomes to people. So it's
And
crazy
we did meet
fun.
a fellow who puts in bidets.
Well,
in his
that's right.
motorhome.
We've been trying to put a bidet in the motorhome, and I was trying to figure out how to do it because I thought it had to do with the flush system. Then I was talking to another fella, and he said, "No, you don't have to put it in." Paul was his name. He was a really nice fellow. He said, "I'll show you how." So he showed me some pictures that he had put in, and he even offered to help me if I was there long enough. I said, "No, you can't do that." So he gave me the pictures. I've got a concept in my mind. My son-in-law, the same fellow that helped me put in my Akuba system, which you saw my mistake. We're not going to do that to the bidet, but he's come up with a concept that we think we can put the bidet in. Bidet has a little issue because my Newmar, if you're thinking about getting a bidet, I'll tell you this, the bidet seat has to go through holes in the porcelain. And unfortunately, the toilet in my Newmar Aire 2019 is a dometic. And the problem is that the holes in the seat are 8.5 inches apart, and there's no bidet that will service that you can get, put those in and then slide the bidet seat on. So it's going to be a process, and I'll let you know how we make out because we're coming up with a plan. That'll be a future story, which I'll definitely share. But I'm not sure why I went off on that tangent. But the bottom line is they're nice people. We had a great time. I would highly suggest if you have a Newmar to go there. Now, there's other companies like Tiffin, and I'm sure Winnebago has it. Tiffin's in, I think, Red Bay, Alabama, and they also have a service center. So to me, the advantages of a service center is that they have the parts, and they have the people that build them and make them, and they know what they're doing. They're not inexpensive, but boy, do they get to the quick, and you're in and out, and it's done correctly. You don't have to keep going back and forth. So that was a big learning curve for us. The only thing you have to do is you do have to plan ahead because they're booked up 6-8 months ahead. And I'll tell you, once you get serviced by them, you make a yearly appointment because not only do you want to go back for your Aqua Hut or your Oasis or whatever your motorhome has, but you know something's going to go wrong. So you go there for your routine air conditioning and the heating unit and the furnace. But then they'll also work on whatever else happens to happen on the way up.
Maintenance.
So, well. That's probably all I have to say at this episode. Mm-hmm. And I do enjoy you joining me, and I really sincerely hope that you do
come back
and visit. Thank you, and have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.